Hi Winederlusters, and today we're off to the Mornington Peninsula. Welcome to the Winederlust podcast. My name's Jeanene and I run a wine events business in Canberra. But my real passion is travel, and my bucket list is to travel to every wine region in the world. In this series, I'll be exploring some regional Aussie wine destinations. I'll give you some tips whether you're planning a romantic getaway, a girls' weekend, or you're dragging the kids along. So pour yourself a glass and let's get exploring. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we're talking about today, the Boon Wurrung and the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. The Mornington Peninsula was formed about 10,000 BC, after the Bay of Port Phillip was flooded, and after a few hundred years of it drying up, people moved into the region. In total, 6 groups settled in the region before the arrival of Europeans. As with many parts of Australia, it was first settled as a penal colony back in the 1800s, some 30 years before Melbourne was founded. The Mornington Peninsula is a really beautiful part of the world. You can be driving through bushland and minutes later you're by the beach or you're up in the hills. There's some lovely seaside towns, and then there's some parts with massive properties and some serious real estate price tags. There are lots to see and do, and if you're in Melbourne, you can take a day trip, but I really suggest spending a bit longer down in the peninsula. So what wines to try? The Mornington Peninsula is known for its Chardonnay and its Pinot Noir, but it was also the very first place in Australia to successfully grow Pinot Gris or Pinot Grigio. So my guest today is Kathleen Quealy, who is that very person. You can just see the passion she has for growing the vineyards and making the wine. She's just pushing and expanding on knowledge that she's accumulated, making wines with emerging and alternative varieties, with skin contact, using amphoras, just to name a few. When I met Kathleen, it was a Sunday afternoon and we were wandering around the cellar door and the vineyard while chatting. So you hear a little bit of background ambience. Enjoy my chat with the very talented and innovating Kathleen Quealy.
We bought this place 21 years ago.
Yeah.
So Kevin, my husband and I, both trained as winemakers. I studied at Wagga, he studied at Roseworthy. We came down here in the late 80s and started work.
Oh, wow.
And then have kept going ever since. And then we bought this place in 2003, but we used to buy the grapes from here.
Oh, then. Right. So you knew the grapes were good.
Yeah.
And you've got so many different varietals and stuff, yeah. So has it been a good vintage this year, or what was the weather like down here?
The vintages are okay, but the crops are still very small, and it puts a lot of pressure on your business.
Yeah.
When you just have small crops, which is probably why we bought this place.
Oh, right.
And there were a couple of vineyards planted in 82, 2 Pinot Noir, and this is one of them. And
you were the first person to plant Pinot Grigio?
Pinot Gris. Or Pinot Grigio, Pinot Gris, same variety. I had gone to college at Wagga and we grew Pinot Gris up there, and it was a complete failure. And I always thought, I was very young, but I always thought it's a failure because there's a resistance to doing something new.
And people trying different things that are new?
In those days,
there
was such a resistance to doing anything new. And what comes with new is different skills in viticulture and different skills in winemaking, which double down on that resistance to do something new. And I always thought, if we go somewhere cool, we can grow this beautiful grape variety. And so when we came down here, we grew it. And it was a complete success. And really, it hadn't been a success at all anyway in Australia.
Wow.
And now it's huge.
Yeah,
it's huge.
Massive.
But it all started in the Mornington Peninsula.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a Mornington Peninsula, they're very ambivalent about its success. Because they want Pinot Noir and Chardonnay to be the story. But the Pinot Gris story, it's a beautiful variety, and down here I think Pinot Gris, it's still the best region in Australia to make Pinot Gris. No irrigation, cool grey sky.
Great.
Same reason why you make beautiful Pinot Noir is why we make such good Pinot Gris. But we also make a whole lot of new varieties. We first started probably 20 years ago. We grew Friulano, which is a skin contact variety from the top of Italy. So we grew Friulano because we thought, well, they grow it near the Adriatic Sea and we're close to the sea.
Yes.
We're 3 or 4 kilometres from the sea. And then we grow Moscato Giallo, which is, for me, the best muscat. It's a very beautiful, refined muscat that's got a lovely sort of Italian animal edge to it. And then we grow Ribolla Gialla, which of course is very new in Australia.
Yes.
And Malvasia, which is very new in Australia.
Yes.
And we make these skin contact white wines with them that we make in those amphoras.
Yeah, and so how big are the amphoras?
They're 800 litres each.
So usually a standard barrel is about 500 litres, is that correct? Or maybe
Depends. 225.
Oh, 225.
No, 300, 450,
So they're
500.
significantly bigger, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Wow. Yeah. And was it 12 months that you had the one of the Friulanos in the amphora?
So we leave them macerating on their skins for 6 months or thereabouts, probably 4 or 5 months maybe, from when you pick them to the beginning of spring, and then we mature them in barrel for 12 months thereabouts. The idea being you're always looking for natural clarity, and you get that clarity by racking at the coldest day of the year.
Right.
Or
One
couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Because you don't want it to go warm again, because then everything will dissolve again. So you wait till it's really cold naturally. Tannins polymerize, condense, acids conglomerate, everything falls out of solution. And while it's cold and it's out of solution, that's when you rack it off its skins.
Fantastic.
That's the trick.
Yeah, there you go. We can all make wine now. That's the trick. With amphora, what sort of different flavours from barrel does that give the wines?
It's more, amphoras have the lovely wide mouths, so you can put whole bunches in. You can't put a whole bunch in a barrel. You can, but the ends are, you can't seal up the end. But you could make the same thing with a barrel.
Right.
You can do them in tanks, in stainless steel tanks, but they tend to get a little bit reduced because there's no oxygen.
Oh, and in the amphora, because it's clay, some air can
You get a little bit of air.
Yeah, right.
Same like a barrel. It's a more natural fibre, so it lets some air in it.
So where do you source the amphoras from? Do you get them made in Australia or no?
They're from Tuscany.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah.
Awesome.
That's a lot of research to go around finding, because French barrels, and then it's like, oh, where do I buy the amphoras from? And
You just do it over the years. You just accumulate info. This time of the year, the way we make our Pinot Noir is we run we call it full barrel business. We do full tanks, full barrels. So everything's kept full because you don't get any oxygen. And the idea with your barrels is you keep your wine in the barrel from the year before, and then you swap it out. So you take the 2023 vintage Pinot Noir comes out, and the 2024 vintage Pinot Noir goes in. And that way your barrels stay full and the wood stays sweet.
right.
It's very, it requires a high degree of organisation, but it's no compromise.
Yeah.
Non-compromise.
How did you decide to grow some of the more alternative
The new
varieties? Yeah, because I've only seen one or two other places in my travels that grow some of them, and a lot of people have never heard of them.
I reckon the background to the wine industry in Australia and America is a very short background. And firstly, people plan it grape varieties, and then you had to sell it on a more commercial basis. And to sell it, you had to rely on all the marketing that Europe had done. So the big varieties sold, and that worked. And now everyone drinks wine, and people have a capacity to understand wine because wine is beautiful, and people love to find out more about it.
Yes.
And so people have a better capacity to understand it, and I think it's a closer arrangement between being successful in the vineyard, being successful in the winery, being successful in the marketplace, and being supported by customers. And I think people don't want to just spend the rest of their lives drinking
The same old, yeah.
Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, Pinot Gris, Cabernet. I think people want to drink other styles. There's that lovely concept that a premium grape variety will exhibit its regionality and its typicity or type. I don't even know how to say it, but it's perhaps you could include a whole lot of other grape varieties. What you're looking for, I think, what everyone's looking for in wine is firstly a lovely drink, and then they want it to remind them of where they've been, don't they?
Yes.
I mean, people go, I went to Bendigo and I bought this beautiful Shiraz, and it just reminds me of Bendigo.
I think that's
Don't
very
you think?
true.
And
yes,
I think
yes.
it's
a great story when you open it up with friends and you can tell them all about the place you visited. And,
and it's part of why wine touring's great, visiting cellars is great, and you end up in this sort of binary system where you go to cool climate Australia and all you drink's Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, and then they maybe give you some Pinot Gris, maybe Riesling. The idea behind the skin contact grape varieties is skin contact white wines, you make it like you make red wine. That's exactly how red wine's made. So red wine is left on skins and makes wines that have huge regional character and big quality, big type. It expresses the winemaker, the soil, everything. So obviously these skin contact white wines, they can do the same. I think they need to be made. They need to be really good varieties that suit skin contact, which is why we planted Friulano, Ribolla Gialla, Malvasia, and Moscato Gialla. So they need to have that capacity to ferment on skins or macerate on skins for a long time, and then you need to look after them really well. And the hardest thing to do in wine is keep the oxygen out, so you don't oxidise wine. It sounds really basic. Keep your tank full, keep your barrel full. And that's quite difficult with skin contact wines because they're full of skin. So once you've overcome the working problem, well, then you can... For me, you need these interesting varieties that express your region, and then overcome the working problem, and then you can start working out whether it's... You want to make them like maybe a classic red wine for, down here. For me, a classic red wine is probably 4 to 6 weeks. For other people, it might be 1 to 2 weeks on skins. Everyone's got their own style.
Yes, yeah. That's so experimental, like trying all these things and seeing what works. But
it's not experimental for us. It's advancing. We just do a little bit every year, and we've been doing it for a long time. So it's not... experimenting's the wrong word for us.
It's more... It's going to end up well.
We're just moving in a direction.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's so good. I had read a review that said you were a visionary, and I can, listening to you, can you hear that? Because
I don't know if we're that. I think we just came down to a region and we had some information and kept going.
Yeah. But I think it's wonderful because, like you said, not everyone's doing that. So
No. But the skin contact story is really... It's not me. The skin contact story is really my husband, Kev, and my son, Tom. And we grew Friulano here, and I was a winemaker, and I was trying to make it like a Semillon. I thought, I reckon I can make this like a Semillon. And my son came back from overseas and said, in Italy, they fermented on skins for a month, 3 months, 6 months, and that's when we really started. The first Turbol Friulano, which I think it's still a leader in skin contact white wine in Australia. Turbol Friulano was first made in 2011.
Right.
And Turbol is a dialect for Italian, for cloudy. And the idea was these wines, of course, had no filtration, no fining, and that if they are a bit cloudy, that's part of the style. When we make it, it's not cloudy anyway.
No. And you've got two different ones that you've got on offer.
We make one in amphora for 6 months, which is very selected bunches, and the other one is only 11 days, and so a more approachable one.
Yeah. No, they were both delicious.
Thank you.
I had a taste before.
Thank you.
It was great. So your son's a winemaker as well now?
Well, he is the head winemaker here now. I'm more bottle
Mentor?
washer. Bottle washer. Right? You know what they call it? I'm the bottle washer.
Big mentor.
No.
The coach.
No, I don't think I'm his mentor. But no, I think I'm the bottle washer. But I think the basis of our business is viticulture, and it always has been. It doesn't mean we're the greatest viticulturists in the world, but we understand how important viticulture is, and we have the same proportion of people and expertise in the vineyard as we have in the winery. And that sort of sums it up, really. And for us, running your own viticulture, controlling your own viticulture is the business. And we have 5 different vineyard sites on the Mornington Peninsula.
Oh, right.
And we run all the viticulture.
And do you notice much difference between do you have the same grapes in each, or in some of them, or?
The basis of our business is Pinot Noir, Pinot Gris, and we do single vineyard Pinot Noir, Pinot Gris on every vineyard, and they're all completely different. We're at Balnarring.
And so, how far away are the other sites?
They'd be within 20 kilometres. So Tassie Vineyard is 1.5 kilometres up the hill. So it's exactly the same aspect of here, but it's 100 metres higher.
Right.
And it's on the chocolate red soil, and it makes completely different wine to here. And then we have the Kathleen Quealy Vineyard, which is behind the Balnarring village. Different soil, lower altitude. Musk Creek Vineyard is probably the furthest, and Halara Vineyard, and they're probably 20 kilometres away. They're main ridge, very, very high, very, very cold.
Right, wow.
And they all make different wines, and in our cellar door, or wherever you buy our wine, you buy them as single vineyard wines. So you don't buy Quealy Pinot Noir, you buy Quealy Musk Creek Vineyard Pinot Noir, or Quealy Tassie Vineyard Pinot Gris, all single vineyard wines.
And
summary of it is, it's an interesting paradox. Where you grow the deeper, more powerful, brooding Pinot Noirs, you also grow and make the most delicate Pinot Grigio styles.
Oh, right.
It's really amazing. So our Balnarring Pinot Grigio is from Kathleen Quealy Vineyard, and the Ferry-Maris Pinot Grigio is from here. Both very delicate styles. And the Pinot Noir from here, 17 Rose Pinot Noir, the KK01 Pinot Noir, and the Kathleen Quealy Pinot Noir are all big structured Pinot Noirs. And then you go, Tassie is sort of in the middle, so it's all fairly rich and golden Pinot Gris and deep and throaty Pinot Noir. But when you get to Musk Creek, the Pinot Gris is big and powerful and golden, and the Pinot Noir is very delicate and aromatic.
Wow.
So they're opposites.
Wow, and just in 20 kilometres, I think that's fascinating. Yeah.
It is.
I
It's
love
a
that
big
about
deal.
wine.
Yeah.
It's the same grape and it just tastes so different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to share about the region?
Oh, it's a great region.
Yeah.
It's a great wine touring region because it is all close to each other. And of course, great eating, lovely nature, because you've got the hinterland and the sea. So you can be at Red Hill, and then you can drive 5 minutes down the road and you're at the ocean.
Yeah.
So it's pretty amazing.
That's
Good,
it.
you've done
Yeah,
it.
thank you
Well
so
done.
much, Kathleen.
Some cellar doors to check out. You can get all types of cellar doors in this region. Some are small and rustic. Some have got a bit of a Melbourne chic about them. And others are these amazing architectural designs. One of these is Port Phillip Wines. It's a huge brutalist concrete building that looks a little bit intimidating from the outside, but it has a lovely views from the inside. Port Leo Estate is also a huge cellar door and has the most extraordinary permanent sculpture exhibition outside. It's like Sydney Sculptures by the Sea all year round. So two of the sculptures that caught my eye, Irwin Worm Fat Car sculptures. This one's a silver one, whereas they had a red one at the Mona in Hobart. And another was a huge polka-dotted pumpkin by Japanese artist Yayoi Kusama. But there's lots and lots to check out there. There is an entry fee for this, but it's well worth it. Near to Point Leo Estate is Montalto, is a beautiful smaller cellar door, which is, they also have an outside sculpture exhibition on a much smaller scale. So Kathleen that we spoke to, her son, Tom, is the head winemaker at Quealy, but he also has his own wine label, a collaboration with Paul Blanc called Kerry Greens. And this is a dog-friendly cellar door in nearby Red Hill. And of course, you have to go past Quealy and check out her Pinot Gris and her other fabulous wines. This is just a sample of many, many cellar doors to visit. Other things to see or do. I loved hanging around this region. I've been several times over the years. One of the most iconic images of the region is the beach bath boxes. You can see these in the town of Mount Martha, just dozens of little sheds along the edge of the beach that people own and store all their beach gear in. They're all painted different colours and patterns, and it's just really wonderful to see. The Main Ridge Dairy is a great detour from wine tasting. There's lots of cheese to try. Just don't leave it too late in the day as they close at 4 p.m, but you can get a glass of wine down there and check out the cute goats as well. The Portsea Hotel is an institution. It's right on the water, down in Sorrento, open for lunch and dinner, often with live music, a perfect spot to grab a meal. And the Peninsula Hot Springs. Every time I've visited over the last 15 years or so, the hot springs grows and grows. There's now over 60 pools of different sizes and temperatures, including a cold plunge, which I didn't venture into. It's also open late at night, and we found that this was a really great spot to visit after dinner and after not too many wines, because you will need to drive there. And if you're a couple, you can even stay in one of their luxury yurt accommodations there. So quick stats of the region. It's about an hour to 2 hours from Melbourne. The peninsula is quite long. Accommodation options, tons of different motels in different towns. I had a really good experience at the Rosebud Motel, located in the little town of Rosebud, less than 10 minutes drive to the hot springs, opposite the beach, and about 2 blocks from a really cool place called The Kitchen that did great food, breakfast and lunches and dinners. So if you're wanting cheap and cheerful, I would definitely check that out. There's lots of luxury accommodation in the area as well. When you're in the area, you must try the Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and of course, the Pinot Gris. Until next time, happy wine travels. For everything discussed today, check out the Winederlust website. And if you're interested in trying some of the wines, we have some events coming up too. And subscribe to my newsletter to find out what else is happening.